Now I am recording. I will be the only one on this live here. This is gonna be a doozy. So fasten your seatbelts and come along with me. Your host, Cy Smith, founder, National Block Club University. Our mission is combating crime and disorder across 167 of America's most dangerous neighborhoods. Been doing it for over 26 years. People always ask, how has it been successful? And I try to educate when people ask that question. What you call success might not be what I call success. I look at success as being consistent, being diligent, being of integrity, caring about people, doing things to help people. That's what I use as success. I don't use the European metrics of what success is. So for those who are looking for grants and things of that nature, they use those models. My model is, how many people did you touch? Who can give a good testimony about what you meant to them and their life? So that's how I look at that. All right. So several things that I want to talk about with you. I'm gonna pull up some slides here. So if you can frame what, if you want to write this down, you want to frame what we're going to talk about. In a nutshell, I want to attempt to relax Black people and all people, secondary, Black people first, that the hard work is done and over. Uh, Despite what you see right now with the carjackings, the kidnappings, the missing people, the violence, believe it or not, we're going through that pain, but what's on the other side is a better way of life for humanity and especially Black people. I put the title in here, Black Town Chicago, because Black people have, to me, have to be okay with calling things what they are when we talk about all the ethnicities here in the United States of America. And I know Black is a term, we have some of our more educated people, if you will, who say we're not Black, we're descendants, and I get all of that. And I don't take away from all those arguments. But in this country right here, it was built on the backs, well, it was three groups that collided: the Europeans, the Africans, and the natives who was here already. And that collision, two people, one group did well, one group got something for their pain, and one group was totally ignored. When you look at the state of Black America, you can go from the east to the west, you can go from the north to the south, and you don't see a Black model of success. Not one neighborhood that I can point to where you can go, no matter your economic situation, go there and be built up. I always talk about the Latino community being able to use Texas that way. Black people need that type of system and process so that we can build up our community. I've also been on the record saying that when you look at the state of Blacks here in the US and across the continent of Africa, so many people benefit on the backs or at the expense of Black people. So it'll be very hard for Blacks to really, really rise up, Africans, Blacks to rise up without some mitigation on the people who need us to stay down. What do I mean by that? If you want to write it down, six things are at play when it comes to Black people here and elsewhere. Three are internal, three are external. You guys probably wrote that down already, know what I'm talking about. Isolation, starvation, exploitation are the three external attacks. Hurt, abuse, and bitterness are the three internal attacks. Black people in this country suffer from structural racism and systemic racism. And there is a distinct difference between the structural and the systemic. The good news is the hard work has already been done to turn all of that around, all of that around. And what we don't want to do as Black people is be dependent on an organization, and we don't want to be dependent on a personality, a person. What we want, what we need and I'm okay for peer review. Anyone can give their thoughts on what I'm saying. What we need as Black people is we need predictability and we need guaranteed audiences. And that's exactly what I'm presenting to you tonight. Predictability and guaranteed audiences. When you go to work, you predict that you're going to have a home to come back to. If you couldn't predict that you had a home to come back to, it will alter your whole day at work because not knowing where you're going to go home to could be disruptive. It's the same thing when you talk about our community. If we don't build predictability and guaranteed audiences, what we're going to find is what we've been seeing. A lot of people doing a lot of stuff, no synchronization, no widespread collaboration, and we won't see the needle being moved. It's important to understand what we're up against. And this is why I highlighted the 6 things working against us: isolation, starvation, exploitation. The isolation was done to us because of structural racism. Black people didn't choose to be in inner cities with jobs on the outskirts and the suburbs. Black people didn't choose that. That was done to us. It was done to us during white flight. And there's a difference between blacks in the north and blacks in the south in terms of how we operate. And so please know that some of this stuff is because of the insecurity of other people who wanted to get away from blacks. So anyway, the good news I want to go back to is predictability, guaranteed audiences. What we've been pushing to everyone is how do we move forward as a people? And I want to make sure that you guys know it's imperative that we move forward under a system and a structure that is independent of what was done and built and established to keep us locked out. When people say the police force need correction, the police force was designed without you in mind. So when you say correcting something, the origin of how something was built matters. How things were structurally configured, from slave patrols to police. So it's important to be aware of the origin and how things was built. And this is why when we talk about guaranteed audiences and predictability being the 2 important things for us, here's why and why this matters when we talk about the 15 things you should know in order for us to be in better position. The 7 things are dealing with our own system. Systems are different components working together under one whole. You have your ignition, your exhaust system. So that's the spark plug that emits the emission. You got the muffler, the catalytic converter. That's all a system. They all are different. The catalytic converter is different from the muffler, but they all serve under the exhaust system, taking fumes and getting it out safely out the car. So when we talk about a system that was more practical, criminal justice system, you got the police officer that arrests you, you got the judge and the jury that listen to your case and decide your fate, you got the correction officer if you go to jail that holds you, then you got the parole officer when you get out that follows and makes sure you're doing what you're doing. They're all under the criminal justice system, but the key with system is they're all separate, but they're working under one whole. What is the Black people's system? And what I want to share with you tonight is the hard work is done. The 7 daily living habits allow us as a people to have a system, meaning different components all working together under one whole. What is the one whole? Black enrichment, Black survival, Black pressing, moving forward. So Sunday being family day, we already know we have serious problems when it comes to Black families. Well, Sunday, no matter who the leader is, Sunday is a day that we can work toward that, making sure we talk about succession planning, make sure we know who is in trouble and who needs help, making sure we know what's going to happen in Big Mama transition. Every Monday, safety day, knowing who the registered sex offenders are in your zip code, making sure the family know where to meet if the house catches on fire, making sure your smoke alarm works. Make sure if you have a working fire extinguisher near the stove, things of that nature. Then we have Tuesday, Education Day. How many people can learn more, build a vocabulary, have additional words? Who needs help? Who's struggling with a certain subject that if they don't get help, they drop out, then they become the next shooters and killers for in our community. So education matters. Every Wednesday, Blue Wednesday, Economic Day, making sure we spending money with people who's gonna care about us and circulate that money back in our community and culture. Thursday, Health Day, dealing with the cancer. We talk about COVID, but a lot of those people transitioning have underlying conditions that Thursday can help. Again, no leader. This is the predictability. We know next week on today is next Wednesday, economic day. Next Wednesday is so the point is this gives us predictability where we know every Wednesday we working on building ourselves up economically. Uh, Thursday is Health Day. Friday is Senior Citizens Day. Seniors have what? A lot of history. So you can also say that's our way of learning about our past every Friday, Seniors Day. Seniors are dying due to loneliness. This is important. Fridays, making sure that we can sit at their feet, learn, and make sure that they feel honored and respected for their years of endurance. Saturday Youth Day, investing in them young people. What I always say with the young people, especially today, they don't want your old programs. They don't want the old processes that is sit in the room and preach to them. In this new age, it's all about experiences, travel, being in new environments, meeting new people, and that's what's gonna keep their attention. Is when you got that 18-year-old that been to Detroit, been to Chicago, been to Atlanta, been to DC, been to Mount Bayou, Mississippi. That's a more insightful teenager than a teenager who never left a city. And so that's important for us. And that's what Saturdays provide us with, is that opportunity to develop them from that travel standpoint. So everything I just described to you, those are the 7 daily living habits. What that affords Black people is predictability for the forever, for the whole year and for years to come. Every Wednesday, economic day. It don't matter if you're in Detroit, St. Louis, that gives us a degree of predictability. It gives us direction, what to do. It helps out Black businesses because they know Wednesday they got extra money coming because we're focused. There's no leader to kill. This doesn't belong to an organization. That's why that is systematic, because it's not under one person or group. Then we have on the structural side. This here can be a little bit more complicated, but let me break this down to you. The structure is the configuration or the makeup. In this household, you have husband, wife, child. That's the family structure. And with that structure, you know your role. Well, because of racism, because of the way America was built, we had to create a new structure. And that structure, what we're promoting, is something like this. We know education matters. We know business and economics matter. We mesh the two together structurally. So, for instance, kindergartners through 12th graders are all supported by about 60 different business industries. And I'll give you a perfect example. All beauticians need on Wednesday at a minimum us to circulate more money with them. That's economic day. But them beauticians, we're asking them to commit financially to fourth graders. Barbers are structurally linked to eighth graders. Lawyers are structurally linked to eighth graders. Seamstress and tailors are structurally linked to first graders. Poets are structurally linked to ninth graders. My point is this: 60 different industries, and if they're Black, they're probably struggling economically who need help. Wednesday, we're getting them the help. But Tuesday, all of them are linked to the education, kindergarten through 12th graders. That's the structural part. So we just took predictability of the 7 daily living habits and we matched it to the structural change, which is every grade being linked to a professional. Now, here's what I've seen over the years pushing this. You have people that because of whatever reason coming up, there's a need to be in control of my own, to do my own thing. And that's a battle for Black people, doing my own thing. And so when you say, hey, Barbara, can you do eighth grades? Now I do all grades. And so our challenge is to try to make people more aware that we have been isolated, starved, and exploited. If we continue down the path of doing my own thing, we can forget about being structured in a way, organized in a way, having a system that will allow us to not only battle back against these oppressors that's benefiting from our doing my own thing, but allow us to then go into enrichment. We got to first battle, win our economies back, win our people back, and then we can get into enrichment. That's like the third leg of it. So I wanted to make sure you guys had that. Let me give you the 8 things. I gave you the 7 daily living habits. That's the system. Now, going back to the structure, those 64 different industries, barbers, carpenters, bricklayers, nurses, teachers, all of those fall under 8 categories. And this is what I do suggest you write down along with the 7 daily living habits. I gave these 8 teams. And these teams matter because when you meet people, and I'm gonna spend a little time talking about how we onboard people. When you meet people, depending on where they at in their life, you can be able to put them in one of these 8 buckets right away. Just by hearing me say this and you writing it down, you'll be able to do this. So the first bucket is business team. These are people that are entrepreneurs. They have a spirit of a mind that they're going to create jobs, create wealth. They're going to put people to work. They like being in control. They don't like being told what to do. That's why they their own boss. So that's team one. All right. The Wednesday habit matches team one. See how that go together? Team two is the people who are protest minded, love accountability, not easy to satisfy, very analytical, and want to hold people to what they say. Very critical. And we need those type of people. That's team two. Those are our protesters. So when you see Black Lives Matter, that's team two. When you see people marching on a business that's not doing right, that's team two. Those are people who are in that state of mind where they want to hold people accountable. And we need team two. Team three is safety, police, firefighters, security guards, military. Team three are people that concentrate on safety, and they're needed as well. Team four are our students and our administrators, principals, and of course teachers, education. That ties into the system of every Tuesday education day. See how that go together? Then we have team five, construction, people that's working with their hands in a skilled trade. Team six is race relations. That's a biggie. That's a big part of Blacktown, Chicago. I'm about to talk about. Those are people who are conscious that the state of Black people in this country, in this world, is not right and need to be addressed. Then you got team seven dealing with food. Those are farmers, our people that's restaurant owners, chefs, caterers, everything dealing with food pantries, all of that's team seven. Then the last one is team eight, that's dealing with policy, laws, dealing with politicians, dealing with lawyers, judges, people of that nature that tend to tell us what to do. I gave you 8 teams, gave you 7 daily living habits. The 8 teams is the way we fight back structurally. And then the systematic way we fight back is through the 7 daily living habits. That's it. Drop the mic. I gave you the plan. People say, don't give it out. They're going to take it and steal it. Use it. We need people to use it. That's the key. So now let's switch and let's talk about specifically Blacktown and why this matters so much. President George Bush said in 2001 after 9/11, 3,000 blacks, 3,000 people, Americans was killed. He said, never forget. That's what George Bush said, Republican president said, 2001. So you look at now, it's 2021, 20 years ago, 2 decades ago. January 19th, before being sworn in, Democratic President Joe Biden said, to heal, we must remember. And he was speaking about the 400,000 people who was killed by COVID. So you got a Democratic president saying, never forget. You got a Republican president saying, never forget. You got a Democratic president saying, to heal, we must remember. Now, let's switch that over to Black people and the Black experience. In this country here, in this country, the most powerful country in the world, capable with military out of this world, powerful because of the collision of 3 groups: the Europeans, the Africans, and the natives who was here. And the Africans were the ones that built this nation. This was important because they was forced to do it. It wasn't because they chose to do it, because they were forced to do it and don't get enough credit, which is why this book that we're going to be promoting is a big doggone deal. Remember, I said every Friday senior day, this is part of our system. So now I'm about to loop this in, but let me get back to the president, then I'm gonna come back with the book. So when we say never forget and we say to heal we must remember, this country has still haven't reckoned with the racist past, how this nation was built. There are companies right now doing well that made their wealth off of our ancestors. And again, we can't heal if we don't remember. Biden said this year. Trump's Bush said never forget. So these companies that have made it now are billion-trillion-dollar companies now because of Africans. All right. That's a problem. We can't heal if we don't remember. And this is one of the key reasons why I said it's critical for Black people that we know we're in this by ourselves for the most part. Team six, which is race relations, is our hope that we'll have non-blacks come over and support us. But I'm tying that in now. But we're at this on our own because think about this. If the president of the United States were to assist Black people with equity, if he assists with equity, think about what happens. In Black America, the Arab community controls the gas stations, the apparel stores, and the corner stores. All right. The Arab community. To help Blacks get our economy going in our communities, it would displace the Arabs in those three arenas. What happens? These Arabs come to this country with this in mind to go into Black neighborhoods. So that has a global impact, the Arabs. All right. If Biden administration were to really help Blacks equitably, the Asian community will be hurt because now you're dealing with the beauty supply stores, you're dealing with the nail salons in our community that will be in trouble if Black women were controlling the nail salons and the beauty supply stores in our community. So now you're having impact internationally, China, Asia, the continent of Asia. All right. If the Biden administration were to equitably really help Black people, the Mexicans would be challenged because if our Black men were repairing roofs, doing construction work, if they were cutting their own grass, that will hurt this community that's again benefiting off of Black people. So now you got Mexico not happy what's happening. You got the Middle East not happy what's happening. You got Asia not happy what happened because Blacks are now controlling their own. Then you got rural white America, who in the 1980s to 90s, prisons was built to lock up Black people from inner cities. So now, as they are changing the laws now, but they've replaced Blacks and put the undocumented in there now. But the point is, rural America was undergirded with prisons. So now, to really help Black people, you're gonna hurt the rural whites when it comes to the economy of the prisons. So think about that. Now you're hurting you're hurting the Middle East, you're hurting Asia, you're hurting the Mexico, you're hurting rural America, and then we got suburban white America all across this country. In the 60s, when white flight took place, the white community fled, some out of fear, some strategic because of realtors pushing lies about what Blacks were going to do when they moved over there. So when white flight took place and the suburbanites moved over there, that's when you also saw privatization. So the municipal inner cities started switching over to private contracting. And what that did, that allowed the white men to create their own companies that mirror city companies and say, hey, just do business with us, and then you don't have to worry about pensions. Well, part of that was a racist backing because now Blacks was going to start working in these city departments. So by contracting out to save the city money, pension money, now you doing business with these suburban men doing sidewalks, doing city services. So now again, Black men are left out again. So I just painted a bad picture of the state of Blacks in this world, not to mention the continent, how Africa's gold is sitting in Europe and in America when it shouldn't be. Africa's animals are sitting in museums in Europe and America without permission. And when I say permission, I'm not talking about exploitation, meaning they got the corrupt leaders to agree to let them do it without really polling the people of Africa if they want their animals or they go to be leaving. It's easy to get a leader and say, that leader said I can take it. So my point is this: we have to, Black people, be prepared to, number one, be informed, and then number two, go at it alone, because it hurts other people. The progression and for us to do for self and take care of our own, it will hurt other people. We can't worry about that. My message to other people is, you've had your turn, you had your time. Now it's time for us to assume a better place and a seat at the table. That's what I say to them. Now let me tie in Blacktown, Chicago. Chicago, and if you're not from Chicago, haven't been to Chicago, you might want to sit out the commentary on this part here, because this is key. Chicago has been one of the most segregated cities in America. All right. And it's been like that, not because of Blacks, but because of whites, not because of Blacks. segregated. Now, for those who don't know, Chinatown, Greek town, Little Italy, and the blacks had what they call the ghetto. And so, um, fast forward to where we are now, you still have Chinatown, Greek town, Little Italy, but for some reason, when you hear Black town, it's trepidation there, and I believe I know why. But we had to help people be comfortable with Black town, and from my vantage point, when I look at city of Chicago, the Latino community, and I think this is a problem with the census as a whole. When you think about the census from the rural America perspective, and also cities like Chicago, we have people from the inner cities who get counted in the census in rural America. Is only done every 10 years. And when those people come back to the cities, those dollars were kept inside rural America. So rural whites benefit from those urban blacks being down there who are back into their urban neighborhoods, and those dollars didn't follow. That's a structural problem with the census. The other structural problem with the census is the fact that undocumented people are counted, which they should. We shouldn't have a full assessment on who's in our country, but no way should those undocumented lead to more congressional seats. It shouldn't lead to redistricting of automatic or congressional zones and things of that nature, because you're rewarding the behavior that allowed them to be undocumented in the first place. And then on top of that, you have a place like Chicago, which calls the city a sanctuary city, when we still haven't healed because we haven't remembered what's happened to black men, the incarceration back when you got more time for crack cocaine than powder cocaine, because whites did powder and blacks did crack. So it's a lot of injustices that we haven't addressed, so we didn't heal because we not remembering what we've gone through. So going back to Blacktown Chicago, it's imperative when we look at Chicago. For those who know Chicago, the Latinos controlled 47th Street for a long time. What we've seen is now the Latinos have expanded. Now 51st Street, and they've been at 51st Street too, but 51st Street. Now we have 59th Street, and the next stop is 63rd Street. This is important because the analogy that I like to give is, if you're in a downtown conference with all ethnicities and you guys are meeting, but the black lady during the meeting keeps slumping over holding her chest, something is wrong. She's in distress. And instead of stopping the meeting, you guys continue to meet. You continue on with business as usual, and she ended up passing out and dying. Now, I equate that to blacks and the Latino community, blacks and all other ethnic groups. I already talked about the other ethnic groups in terms of economics and why they need blacks to stay docile so that they can continue sending their children to college and living a good life off of the money that blacks are giving them. But this here is in particular to ignoring the struggle and the plight of this woman in this meeting, that the people see her hurting and struggling, but they continue with the business at hand. This is what is happening in Chicago in particular. When we talk about the Latino community and the black community, we have black people dying the most with the murder, shooting, missing person, organ harvesting, you name it. And instead of stopping the meeting and saying, let's get this person the treatment they need, let's help this person, what we have is even the Democratic Party agreeing that immigration is a more important issue than healing what's happened in the origin of this country, which is the repairing of what was done wrong to the African people. So, what I want black people to be able to do is to be comfortable saying that. I think being politically correct is a problem when you can't even speak about what is very visual and obvious. And it's very visual and obvious that blacks are moving out of the city of Chicago, and they're not moving because they want to. In most cases, they're moving because they want to survive, because they want to live. They want their children to live. And you have a Latino community that's growing and growing into where blacks are leaving. And it's not happenstance. This is coordinated and this is strategic. And what I'm saying, Blacktown Chicago from 2012, when we had people sign the petition is at 63rd Street. I believe 63rd Street is where we must make sure that we have a place that black people can feel comfortable, that we can have an economy where we can have quality culture. And I say that because our culture is toxic in a lot of instances where if you black and you a male, you can't strive hard or you gonna be called thirsty. That's a toxic culture, a way of life that we can't be seen as being smart or you a nerd. So we gotta have a place in Blacktown, Chicago. 63rd Street is that battleground. And for anyone who don't believe it's a battle, I put it to you this way: my wife personally has her master's degree, and where we live at now, they was offering a job. It was in the social world, and she couldn't get the job, and it listed as social associates. She has a master's, but because they needed bilingual, she couldn't get the job. Now she can go back and get her, learn to speak Spanish. But I want to be again clear to everyone. Um, there is competition, and anyone who say it's not competition is not being honest with you, and they not being real with you. If now, because of most of their clients are of Hispanic descent, they need someone that speaks Spanish, so that makes sense for that business. But the byproduct of what we see is now people that, in this case, my wife got her master's, can't get a job that is at an associate's level. You can't say there's no impact. That was an impact, and that's happening all over the country. So the way forward to me again is that black people, $1 trillion people in this country, have to look after self. Just like a father and a stepfather, that father should be first to take care of the child, even if he's not in that home. And that's just a personal self pride thing to be able to do that versus the stepfather. It's cool the stepfather is doing stepping in for the child so that the child has some father figure, but for that father who should own and have responsibility to do it means a whole lot more. Blacks should do for self, period. Anyone who's against blacks doing for self should look in the mirror and say, why do you want to create a dependent black versus a black that is doing for self? And this is why I'm saying to you, 63rd Street is critical for Blacktown, Chicago. And we're going to be calling on our people from Mississippi and the South. Majority blacks are in the South. The same way we know in order for the census numbers to be growing as much as it is for the Hispanic community, we better believe some of that is coming from south of the border up here. And unfortunately, we have an ocean, two oceans that separate Africa from here. So we don't see that same argument from an immigrant standpoint. Because if it was black people coming in majority numbers from Africa here, you'll see a different focus when they talk about immigration. It'll be a little bit nastier. I really believe that. So here's what I'm saying. I want to make sure all my Mexican friends know this. Here's the raw reality. Um, I want all human beings to do and be the best they can be. I believe there's a pecking order. I believe people should wait in line. I think people shouldn't jump ahead of others in the line. And the fact is, this country, that a lot of people come here. The new DHS leader just said this is a nation of immigrants. No, no, no. That every time a person say that, they erase our history. This isn't a nation of immigrants. You guys immigrated here. We was forced here. So when you take our way of getting here out the equation, and I know not all of us was forced here, some of us was born here, but the point is the root was our people coming over here from the get-go, and then some of us was born here. But the point is we didn't immigrate here. We didn't come over here for a better way of life. And when you say everyone is an immigrant, you erase the natives who were here and you erase the Africans who was forced to be here. And so it's a disrespect, major disrespect, to erase our history. A lot of these history books, I said it, some of the class action lawsuits got to come with a lot of these books that taught everyone this misinformation about the origin of this country, and put this whole white supremacy on a pedestal, that a lot of this stuff had people really believing that they're better than what they really are, and that they really are just privileged, and they're not as sharp as it is. A lot of these companies took black inventions, put their name on it because they had the white supremacist system, and they're getting credit for it to this day, when in fact it was an African that designed it, that thought of it, that created it. And so we got to do better, because both the Republican president Bush said after 9/11, never forget, and both Biden said after the COVID 400 deaths, to heal we must remember. So everything I'm saying is coming from a place of we must do better, and we can't do better if we continue to allow Africans and Black people to be on the bottom, knowing good and well that we haven't even done right by those people. So here's what's going to happen. Here's the and then I want to show a slide here. So here's what's going to happen. Every Friday is senior day. It's 4 Fridays a month. So the first Friday of the month, we're going to focus on the 1600s. What was happening from 1601 to 1699 every Friday, because we're going to treat our own trauma, and you can't treat your trauma if you don't acknowledge what happened to you. So the 1600s will be covered on the first Friday of the month. The 1700s will be covered the second Friday of the month, from 1701 to 1799. The third Friday of the month will be the 1800s, 1800 to 1899. Then the fourth Friday will be 1900 to 1999. All right, that gives us 400 years of looking at what happened. Now, we've been blessed to meet a brother. His name is Chip, who God put it in his spirit to design a book that has the news articles from back in the day, from back in the day, the direct news articles of what was being said back then in the 1700s, the 1800s, up to the 1900s. So this is going to tie perfectly in with Blacktown, Chicago. It's going to tie perfectly in with every Friday, Seniors Day, but looking at our history, because we can't heal if we don't remember. So Friday's going to take us back down memory lane, and we're going to be asking all of our allies, from the German Americans to the Italian Americans to the Polish Americans to the British Americans. We're going to be asking our Latino Americans. We're going to be asking our brothers and sisters from Asia, whether it's from China or Japan. We're going to be asking our Arab brothers. We're going to be asking everyone to join us, since we've seen Black Lives Matter. We've seen people say that they recognize what's happening to Black people is wrong. We're going to be asking you to join us in this quest to remember, so that we can heal. This book, and I'm gonna bring up the website here in a minute. This book costs $20 or $40, either or. Hardback is $40. It's more of a coffee table book that can withstand spills, and then you're gonna have a softback that if you spill on it, it's gonna be stained. But this book has 178 pages of real news articles from back in the day. And I'm gonna tell you this here. I'm gonna read some of them to you. Then I'm gonna go to the website. Uh, this is some really, really stuff, good stuff that's gonna allow us to heal once we remember. So, escape plot uncovered by the Albany, New York Commission. 6 slaves were arrested here yesterday after planning an escape. Think about that. Escape plot uncovered. Like, why you got them enslaved in the first place? But this is what happened. They was arrested and uncovered by the New York State Commission for detecting and defeating the conspiracies of the state of New York. So the point here is this is what was in the newspaper article. They have also here, they needed people to help make more slave ships. They're gonna pay 3 pence. I don't know what 3 pence is, but that's what they listed here. This was in, I don't have the date right in front of me here, but some of the other articles, court victories mean little for most slaves. Don't mean nothing because they still go be enslaved. White blood case wins in Connecticut. And perhaps the earliest court case occurred 75 years ago in Connecticut. A mulatto slave, Abada, cited his white blood, charged his master with unjust holding and detaining of said person in his service for the space of 1 year. So, in other words, they charged him just to use that space. The court freed Abba, making him his master pay 12 pounds for damages. So in that case, that was a victory of sorts. This was back in February 7th, 1778. So this is just what this book does. What I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna come out so I can show you guys what we're gonna be doing with this. Let me put this up so you guys can see here. You guys know our whole focus is about stopping the violence. So this will give you guys just a snapshot of that. But let me do this while we go here. I want to show you guys in particular the website. And what we're going to need everyone to do when you order the book is to make sure that you put the promo code in there, NBCU, because if you don't put that promo code in there, they won't be able to know it's from us, and we won't get the proceeds. All our proceeds are going to be used right back in your zip codes, no matter where you are in the country, to help keep pushing and building what we're doing. So that's why it's going to be important when you order the code, when you order your book, the code is NBCU, which stands for National Block Club University. And that's the code we want to make sure that you put in so we can get the credit we need, so we can get the money. And the money is going to be used to make this whole thing we're working on come to fruition in a more expedient fashion. This is going super slow. So we'll see. We will see if it allows us to do that. Let's stop this screen sharing here. And now let's see if I can do it this way. Excellent. All right. I think I will be able to do it this way. So let's see here. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to put this up so you guys can read this while I get the internet pulled up with this. I thought I had it ready, but I don't. So you guys just peek at that for 1 minute here. Oh, I see you guys are seeing everything that I'm doing. So pardon the moment here. Hopefully the internet will come up and I can get you guys to the website, and we can just spend a little time looking exactly at the African American Historical News Journal's website. I have it as a favorite here, so it won't take us that long to get to it. All right, here it comes right here. All right, and I'm also gonna take you guys to the Blacktown Chicago map so you guys can see that too. All right, here we go. This is it right here. All right, so this is what the book looks like right here. And they have some pages on here. Yeah, so this is it right here. So this is what it looks like when you go to purchase it. The hardback cover is $35, but it's $5 shipping. So that's why I told you guys $40. And then the soft cover is $20. And shipping is $5. So it's really $25. I just thought about that. I got to start better explaining that. But the key is to go here, and they have some of the articles on here, some of the stories on what people were saying when they actually purchased this book. I have the book. I'm going to make certain that this book is in all 20 of our Chicago zip codes. We're going to be asking our leaders to purchase the book to help raise this money. This group here took the risk, never met me, and they're going to put up the $5,000 that you guys hear me talk about all the time. You know, my motto is we're going to turn Black America around in increments of $5,000. So this group is going to put up that $5,000 over the next 3 months so that we can operate effectively. So that's going to allow us to hire 3 people for 90 days. This is what the book looks like right here. And this is the publisher, the owner, Chip Dolphy. That's his name. And this is what the book looks like. Let me be able to put some annotations in here so you guys can see what I see. Okay, so right here, I like to draw this box here, and I like for it to be red because I like for it to stand out. Okay, so if you can see, it says Negro boys shot in Florida. That's what that headline says. It has the date on that. The Supreme Court and Black Americans. That's what that headline says right here. Then we got, this is probably the 1900s, Professor Du Bois accepts the NAACP position. So when I looked at this book, it allowed me to just see what the state of mind was back in that day. And to me, that is a big deal to be able to go back and see the state of play, if you will, back in whatever the time frame. And this goes back to 1700. So you're going to be able to get a real snapshot. What I hope we can do with this, you guys, is because we know, let me get rid of that annotation there, because we know Fridays we're going to be doing a walk back in time 400 years. We want to get groups of 10 together with one scribe, one person who will take notes. And we want to start to have every person in this 10-person group give their perspectives on whatever uh, years you've been assigned. So if you've been assigned the 1600s, you give us what you see. It won't be in this book because it starts at 1700s. But if you're in the 1700s, whatever you pick out of there, whatever article touches you, you write your perspective on it. And here's why everyone's perspective is important. Because remember, we want to treat our trauma, and it starts with acknowledging what's real, what's happened to us. So when you pick an article, new Negro boy shot in Florida, you think about your family in Florida. When you do this, we're going to make certain that everything that we document from your 10-person group is shared with our youngsters. I would say probably fourth grade to high school. But the point is, we're going to transfer your living expression on what you read here to our young people, make sure that them stories get passed down. And what I love the most is we're not just revisiting the painful history, we're going to be talking about the triumph. When, like I said before, if you black in this country and you haven't given up, that says how strong you are to have all of these 6 attacks happening at the same time, all the time to you, but you still find a way to persevere. That says a whole lot about your strength. And so we're going to work on getting these books inside the prisons, inside the schools. It's going to allow us to generate mass amounts of money so that we can continue the program. We're going to partner with your organizations, your non-for-profits, to help you make money off of this. The owner, Chip, designed this so that it can help others raise money while getting the consciousness of what happened to build this country out there to everyone. So that's going to be a really, really big benefit for everyone. Of course, we're going to cover home base first. So initially, we're going to be concentrating on those proceeds staying internal. All right, so now let me move over to the conventions, and then I'm gonna be wrapping up because I knew this was gonna be a long one here. So we got Blacktown, we got the books that's gonna coincide. Blacktown will allow us to treat our trauma by going back, looking at where we've been, so that we can remember. That's how we're gonna heal. Now, Gary, Indiana is a city that is 8 out of 10 people black. And we see in other groups move in again. And again, I'm not the one to say no one can live amongst black people. Just like in Chinatown, black people live in Chinatown. But we do want to have a place that we can point to that's culturally relevant and successful. Gary, Indiana, being right next to Chicago, is ripe for that. It has the most affordable housing in the country. Mississippi is another place, but that's a whole state. Gary is a city. And so it makes sense for us to get black people in position to where we support our state, Mississippi, where it's almost 40% black, the only state that close to being 40%. And we support Gary, Indiana, that's 80% black. So strategically, Chicago, Gary, Mississippi, Georgia, Louisiana, those are the blackest. And it's important that we start operating from that standpoint. Remember, the Asians are operating internationally when they talk about beauty supply stores. The Arabs are operating internationally when we talk about the gas stations, apparel. The Latinos are operating internationally when we talk about Mexico, America. We can't continue as black people fighting West Side versus South Side when you got other groups operating internationally and we're not. When you see me post pennies to Africa, that's our at least attempt to have relations with the continent of Africa. So these conventions coming out of Gary, Indiana, will allow us to have Gary the Mecca when it comes to every single weekend conventions. That is a big deal. Every single weekend conventions happening in Gary, Indiana. Like that is going to allow us to really, really turn the corner with a city that people are running from, where now people are going to be running to, because every single weekend it's a different convention taking place. So the main thing I want you to take away with is Gary, Indiana has affordable housing, very affordable housing. Gary, Indiana has been neglected, i.e., just like black people have, and it's worth investing. It's right next to Chicago, so it's worth investing. And what we've done to expedite that and to help speed that up is we said, let's bring people from Florida, from Georgia, from Mississippi up to these conventions being held in Gary, Indiana to justify taking this city and having national revenue coming into this city because of these conventions that we're doing. So I wanted to make sure that you guys saw that. What I'm about to show you now are um, the brochures of these conventions, so you can see that it's real. What I'm sharing with you, I'm not just making this up, and it's literally every single weekend that we're doing these different conventions. So let me do that so you guys can see that and see why we're doing it. Okay, here we go. And I was going to talk about the black businesses, but we can say that to next week. Uh, all black businesses are circulating money with each other. That's in our network. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you heard me and Mandine's meeting today, you heard him talk about the impact of even someone sending $20. So we'll do another segment on that so we can really spend some time talking about that. Let me show you right now these conventions, and then I'll be done. I know this was a long video, but I appreciate you guys sticking with me here, and it will be shared on YouTube, so it will be on the YouTube channel as well. Okay, here we go. Conventions. All right, give it 1 second to load up. This is a small version, so I'm gonna have to really expand this so you guys can see it. All right, I have to expand this because you. Okay. All right, I think that's gonna make it where you can see it better. Nope, it didn't. So let's do it this way and see. All right, let me do it this way because that wasn't working. So I wanted, yep, there we go. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Sorry about this, you guys. Here we go. There we go. This is a little bit better. I can really explain this from here. Okay, let's do it from here. Let me break this down. And this here is, again, it's going to be on YouTube, so you guys can later come back to it. But I want you guys to really see what we're doing here, because to me, this should excite every single black person in America. Just to me. What we're looking at here is an organizing tool, and it's galvanizing us from Chicago, Gary, Detroit, Milwaukee. It's a reason for black people to interact. Because of COVID, we're doing them via Zoom right now. So now let me get to the annotations so I can give you guys, I can really highlight what I want you guys to see. So first, the title. So that's January. January is over. So here, Black History Convention. You can't see the date, but that says February 5th through the 7th. Okay. Then we have the Photographers Convention. That is February 12th to the 14th. So all photographers in Birmingham, then Detroit, St. Louis, we're going to be getting them together. And every one of these conventions, we want you guys to come up with a theme. What is the theme for your city, photographers? What is your theme for your region, photographers? And then when you guys get together at the national convention, what is the national theme for the next year? Let me tell you why that matters. Because there's some young guy on 63rd and King Drive that loves taking pictures. And with the right levels of support, he could become a photographer with a guaranteed audience of clientele to keep him afloat to where he's his own entrepreneur now. So at this photography convention on Valentine's Day weekend, he can come to this convention and meet people who can help him get to where they are and even better. That's the benefit and the power of these conventions that is strategic for our community. You get the big conventions, Chicago, the um, um, forgot the convention hall, McCormick Place in Atlanta. You got the big one down there in Vine City. But the point is, this is for us, and it's done out of a black woman's grant theater to help build up another black business. Then we have here the Entrepreneurs Convention, and that's February 19th to the 21st. And then we got the Outdoor Fishing Convention. That's February 26th to the 28th. Let's go to the next one. I left January out, you guys, because we passed January already. All right, so now here we go. Let me eliminate those. Let's see here so you guys can see this. So these are the March conventions right here. March conventions. Let's draw it up. Let's draw it up right here. Okay. So our nursing convention, that is March 5th to the 7th. Our doctor and dentist convention, that's March 12th to the 14th. Our Africa convention, March 19th to the 21st. Our science convention, March 26th to the 28th. As you hear these titles, think about that 5-year old, 6-year old that love putting things together, who might be a future scientist. You bring them to this convention, they get around black scientists. We just lost one of our major black scientists, Alcus Kermati, out of Gary, Indiana. Brilliant scientist. So this is our way all over America, making the connection with our people who are retired in any of these fields and making sure that they can translate their skills and network to the younger people who aspire to become this. We got a strong nursing network. I can't wait till our Chicago nurses meet our Gary nurses, meet our Atlanta nurses, meet our Miami nurses. That's going to allow blacks in America to be at a better position when they know each other. And I get it, there's a National Nursing Association, but this is all centered with us, which is block by block, which is the grassroots level, which is linked to your zip codes. And that's what these associations don't do. They can't afford to do is be community linked and grassroots. They have to focus on the profession and the edification of the profession, where that's not our focus. Our focus is on connecting people and making sure it's tied to the block for your safety reasons. So that's why you need the National Black Nurses Association to help them grow and cultivate. And what we doing is linking the young people with those professionals so that they can be connected, and it's helping the blocks and the neighborhoods. So let me scroll down so you guys can see the next one here. That's April. And I'm gonna go quicker, so I'm not gonna draw on all of these because I want to make sure you guys can see. This here is April. April is really about K through 12th grade conventions. So do you see all four of those there? Let me keep going. I want to speed up here. May conventions. We got the Black Women Convention. We got the Landlord Realtors Convention. You see that brochure? We got the Landscaping Convention. We got the Book Authors Convention. That's huge. Then you go down to June conventions. You got the U.S. Accountants Convention, the U.S. Graduates Convention, the Black Male Convention, the U.S. Air Technical and Engineering Convention. That's in June. You go over here. Now we got in July the religious. Where you go? All right, July. You got the religious convention, the police convention, the U.S. trucking convention, and the lawyers convention. That occupy all 4 weeks of July. We know people on vacations, but if you're in town, come on, participate in that convention. Then in August, people going back to school, we have the U.S. political convention, the U.S. military convention, the U.S. karate and boxing convention, and the U.S. sales and marketing convention. That's August. Then we go into September. We have the U.S. Firefighters Convention, the U.S. Barbers and Beautician Convention, the U.S. Poetry Convention, and the U.S. Arts and Design Convention. Moving right along in October, it puts us right back into treating our trauma. This is when we go back in history, the 16 to 17 historical convention. Then October, the second week, the 17 to 1799 historical convention. Then the third weekend in October, the 18 to 1899 historical convention. Then the last weekend, October 22nd to the 24th, that 1900 to 1999 historical convention. So all of you guys that bought the books, that's in the book club, Treating Our Trauma, Now you're on full display for the whole month of October to share that insight so that it's recorded, documented for our young people. All right, so now we get to the last 2 months, November. So here we go. November Gary Conventions is the U.S. Journalism Convention, the U.S. Restaurant Caterers and Chef Convention, the U.S. Sewing Convention, the U.S. Homeless and Housing Convention. Then we have in December the U.S. Plumbers and Painters Convention. You have the U.S. Carpenters, Electricians, HVACs, and Roofers Convention. Then we have the U.S. Bricklayers and Welders Convention, and that's the only weekend we don't have one is that December 25th to New Year's. So you see the dollar amount $65 there. For just so you guys know, the way these conventions are financially structured, we're going to work on corporate America sponsoring it so that it can be close to free for most people. That money you see $65 is for four $10 meals, so that's 40 out of 65 right there. $15 is for our guest speaker because we're going to put money into our guest speakers' pockets and some of our facilitators at a meeting. And then the other $5 is for our paperwork. So that money is all going to support the whole movement. No one's profiting. This is not for profit. It's not for profit. But what this is going to allow us to do all over this country is go and find out where our bricklayers at in all 20 cities, where our painters at in all 20 cities. And now we have a reason for them to interact so that they can work on their fundraising plan to get up to the convention in Gary, Indiana. This is going to help us with building up Gary's economy, getting the housing stock going, helping people buy and invest in real estate in Gary since they know all these professions is coming to Gary, Indiana. Shout out to the Hard Rock Cafe and Hotel opening up in Gary this year. We're going to be working with them as well to get them on board with this concept. We're going to be working with all the manufacturers of every one of these titles you heard me mention to get them to say, don't just send money to the same black organizations and that's your commitment to buying black or supporting black. We want to make sure that you put money behind the independent grassroots structures that's not tied to our Democratic Party and religious and political structures that are part of feeding into these gaps that we continue to see. Tons of money going to the same organizations, no change. This is going to allow us to put money into something that's going door to door, block to block, and getting people off the sidelines to these conventions. Thanks for watching, you guys. I know this was a long one. It will be on YouTube tomorrow because it's going to take a long time to upload it. But I appreciate you guys. Stay strong. Peace.